machines that had enslaved them.
Humanity won the war against thinking machines. Then it became the machines itself. Since the end of the Butlerian Jihad, when mankind smashed the thinking machines, we were forced to turn the human body itself into a tool. The Bene Gesserit refined the mind. The Spacing Guild mutated the flesh. But in the cold, xenophobic darkness of the peripheral systems, one society went a decisive step further. They didn't just refine humanity, they desecrated it. We're talking about the Bene Tleilax. To the great houses, they are a necessary evil, the back-alley surgeons of the universe who supply synthetic organs, twisted mentats, and the impossible gift of a second life. But behind the veil of their isolationist religion lies a biological atrocity so profound that even the Emperor's Sardaukar hesitate to speak its name. For the Axlotl Tanks are not machines, and they are far more than mere containers. To grasp this horror, one must understand the Tleilaxu masters. They don't view themselves as scientists, but as the only true pious beings in a galaxy of infidels, guided by the Shariat, a secret religious code. They view the rest of the universe as nothing more than raw material, while the rest of the Imperium must rely on the spice for its longevity. The Tleilaxu have perfected a far darker form of immortality. The Masters claim to have lived for thousands of years, their consciousness preserved across countless bodies, each one a copy of the last. As the unseen puppeteers of the imperial economy, they wait patiently for the moment their great belief finally consumes the stars. But what good is 1,000-year lifespan if someone can steal your face, your voice, and your memories? Yet the Imperium's greatest nightmare is not a nuclear strike, but a face dancer. In the early days, they were mimes, spies who could shift their features to mimic a target. But the Tleilaxu evolved them into something far more dangerous, the perfect infiltrator. Modern face dancers, like the one Cytail, who appears in the pivotal story of Dune Messiah, do not just mimic a face, they absorb the entire psyche of their victim. They can replicate pheromones, memories, and habits so perfectly that even a Bene Gesserit truthsayer can be deceived. Identity is the only real currency in the Imperium, and the Tleilaxu are the master counterfeiters of the galaxy. There is a persistent theory that face dancers have already replaced key members of the Landsraad. When you look into the face of such a creature, you don't see a person, but a biological mirror that can commit a murder, and then mourn the victim with genuine, stolen tears. The Tleilaxu's most profitable product, however, remains the Ghola. For the right price, they bring back a fallen son or a murdered wife. But a Ghola is initially a hollow shell, a body without a soul, whose memories are locked behind the wall of death. For millennia, the Tleilaxu tried to crack this code, only to find that the only way to restore the true self is through targeted trauma. To awaken a Ghola, the Masters must subject the creature to a psychological trigger so violent that the genetic memory shatters the barrier. It's a cruel irony. To get a loved one back, the Tleilaxu must first torture them until they remember who they once were. This creates a being that is both human and other, a returnee from the abyss with a fractured mind. For 10,000 years, travelers also asked one simple question: where are the Tleilaxu women? No spy and no diplomat has ever seen a female of their species. The Masters always claimed they lived in sacred seclusion. They have Axlotl Tanks. These tanks do not consist of steel or glass. They are the living, breathing bodies of Tleilaxu females, surgically and genetically repurposed into industrial vats. Their consciousness was extinguished, their limbs removed, and their wombs expanded to monstrous proportions to act as incubation chambers for Gholas and synthetic spice. Every time a noble buys a new pair of eyes, or the Spacing Guild orders a shipment of spice, they are complicit in a cycle of biological slavery that defies every human ethic. The Tleilaxu deleted the concept of motherhood and replaced it with a production line of meat. Why then does the Imperium tolerate this abomination? Because the Tleilaxu have made themselves indispensable. They are the only ones who can create twisted mentats like Peter de Vries, human computers whose empathy has been surgically removed to create atrocities without the burden of a conscience. But as we move towards the era of Dune Messiah, the Tleilaxu are no longer content with being just the slaughterhouse of the galaxy. They are preparing for the Kralizek, the battle at the end of the universe. In their Axlotl Tanks, they are now breeding beings that are no longer human, seeking their own Kwisatz Haderach to challenge the Atreides throne. The Tleilaxu are a warning of what happens when religious zeal meets a total lack of empathy. In their quest to replace thinking machines, they became machines of flesh themselves. So the next time you see a character return from the dead in the world of Dune, do not cheer. Remember the price, remember the tanks, and consider that in the eyes of a Tleilaxu master, you are nothing more than biological raw material waiting to be harvested.